Hello, and welcome to the weekly reading. It is a very big supermoon in Pisces week. That will be on Thursday. And we're having our last week of Venus retrograde and our first week of Mars in Libra, one of Venus's signs. So he is currently in charge. He is currently being ruled by Venus, who is in her last week of retrograde. So there's much uncovering to be done. Um, it's going to be a big week, and I've got to say, the cards speak into it being a rough one. So pick a card number between 1 and 4, and let's dive in. I'm trying to see the heart. Ah, there it is. There's the amethyst heart. So there's a lot of nature vibes going on here, a lot of florals. This is a lot of Venus energy coming through, and beautiful, gentle Piscean energy coming through with that super moon. And it's Virgo Pisces, right? There's a lot of Virgo this week. We have Mercury retrograde in Virgo. We have the sun in Virgo. So yes, that speaks to a lot of this foliage and amethysty stuff. Oh, we do have, I just trying to show you before I get into the cards, we do have some clear quartz there as well in form of a Merkaba. I don't know if anybody's seen those before. This is not a really great shot of it. There we go. Okay, and you see the 5-pointed jasmine? That is a Venus flower. She does a 5-pointed star in the sky as she moves through her cycle. So let's jump in. Cards 1 to 4. Ooh, zoom out. There they all are. A lot of upside downies. No major arcana you might notice this week. So this week's going to feel kind of personal, which is kind of right. It stands to reason because Venus is a personal planet, Mars is a personal planet, Moon and Sun and Mercury, who's retrograde, are all the personal planets. And they're kind of really busy right now. So for a moment, it's as if the outside noise of the big wide world is less noisy, which is quite something in today's day and age, and our own noise becomes louder. We become more introverted, introspective at least, reflective, and that is where we should be doing the work. However, we might not be liking what we hear this week. It may be leaving us feeling a little bit, and we start with the 8 of Cups, and theoretically she is walking away from a situation into a sunset and a new sunrise, which is imminent. You know, that's always the situation. You can read this with a sunrise or a sunset, I always feel, depending how you feel. Like, have I already seen the sun is rising over there, or am I accepting I'm walking into the sunset and a new day will dawn? And you can see she's burned some of the pots. You can see in the water, some of them have already sunk down. And it's like a letting go. It's a complete, even though it's a water card, cups, it's a burning away by fire. But when it's upside down, there's a sense of, have I made the right choices? Have I let go of the right things? There's regret. There's, yeah, maybe even a sense of denial. You know, maybe you've started to gaslight yourself, maybe saying something like, I walked away from this job, this relationship, this situation, because when I was in it, it was so hard. But then when you're out of it, you kind of forget. It's like having a newborn. It's so consuming. And then they grow up and you think, oh, that was so fast. I wish I could go back. But when you were in it, you thought it would never end on some levels. And that kind of is this 8 of Cups. It's that thing where you, if it's upside down, you temporarily forget why you made the choice, because in the beginning of any new journey, it's hard. And it feels easier to go back to the devil you know than to keep trucking into that hopeful new sunrise that you don't know what it's going to look like. And I mean, that takes us into the 10 of Wands, which is, okay, now I'm on this journey. Okay, these next two are upright, but this one's quite a tough card anyway. I'm on my journey. I'm overloaded. I'm overburdened. I am exhausted. I do like, by the time you get to the 10 of Wands, you can see she's traversed up a hill and down a hill, and things are kind of starting to even out. And that, at least for me, is one thing. But I feel like for this card, oftentimes it's where we took too much baggage and we really didn't take the time to edit. And Virgo is a big sign of editing stuff. And retrogrades make us reflect on, did I really need to take the kitchen sink? And this is that moment where we actually have just about gotten to the end of the journey and we're thinking, why did I put myself under so much pressure to take these heavy burdens all the way here with me and only at this point editing, rather than when you're packing up house going, you know what, I'm not taking this stuff into my new life, into my new beginning. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely the person that takes too much and then edits on the other side. So I resonate very strongly with this card. And that is physical stuff, but also the emotional baggage that we carry and the way we think. Because remember, we've got Venus in her last week of retrograde where she's really reflecting on, why did I value that so much? Why did I put so much weight in that being really important for me to be happy, for me to be loved and lovable and loving and worthy and valuable and all those Venus words. And then we've got Mercury in the very editing sign of Virgo in a reflective space. And Virgo can be quite critical. So that inner mind might be really on your case right now, which is again why you're in the Eight of Cups. Maybe I've made the wrong decision. Maybe I should just go back, because that inner critic is being very reflective. And the inner critic is critical to one's self primarily. So whatever it was in the outside world that pushed you to make your decisions, now in this reflective phase, you might start finding yourself saying, I should have done better, tried harder, listened more, recognized signs, whatever your inner critic says to you, and just beating you up a little bit. But because that's your internal narrative, you can also go with the baggage of that. What baggage in my mind am I carrying around with me? Why do I keep making excuses for this situation when I know that it's not good for me, it's not true for me? Why do I keep perpetuating that story? I need to change the words that I use, literally. I mean, spelling is like creating a spell. So the words we use are magical and they're important, and we need to pay attention and be very vigilant, especially if there's something we recognize that we say on repeat. And then, I don't know, for me, this Eight of Swords is always a bit of a scary looking card, but actually I don't mind this card. And in this context, I almost feel like this is our PowerPoint of the week. You'll also see we have 2 wands, 1 cup, 1 sword. So we've got no pentacles. And I think last week we maybe had no pentacles. We went through a very pentacles heavy place, and now we're pentacles light. So we're not really supposed to be seeing the fruits of our labor right now. Right now we're doing the mental clearing, the emotional clearing, and finding that new fire for moving forward. So if projects don't feel like they're going according to timelines or plan right now, recognize that it's the stuff you cannot see that's actually happening. And it's very important stuff. It's very much part of the creative process. But it may be frustrating if you really wanted to get it done yesterday. Okay, so so we've also got 2 eights. Notice that. 8 of Cups, 8 of Swords. And 8s are right near the end of a journey, but there's still a little time, and you really don't know exactly when the finish line is. By the 9, you're like, I get it. I get that I'm nearly there. I can sort of see the end in sight. But the 8 is just before that. It's also a card of the self. It's also a card of sort of business and focus. So it is a point at which we, the self, needs to make some kind of conscious decision to step forward into something. So with this upside down 8 there, it's as if we made the decision and now we're vacillating with that. With this particular 8, it's upright, and you can see how in the mirror, in the reflection, she is bound, she is blindfolded, she is kind of really caught in anxiety and angst and uncertainty, whereas in the actual reflection, she's actually pretty calm. And of course, reflection, when we have 2 personal planets retrograde, is quite pertinent and potent as well. But she is actually fairly peaceful and calm in the reality of it. And this is where it's a case of you are stuck in your fears, you're stuck in your nightmares, you're stuck in the fear of the unknown based on what has happened in your past, and just struggling to open your eyes and see what the reality of the situation is right now. And it's not what you are thinking it is. So it is time to open your eyes and go, is this true for me now? And again, when we get stuck into that 8 of being a bit nostalgic about maybe it wasn't that bad, giving ourselves a good old gaslight, maybe I should have stayed, maybe the job was actually the perfect job for me, and if I'd waited a little longer, I would have seen a way of growing through that job, that relationship, that situation. But actually, we're in exactly the right place. We just need to open our eyes. And it's interesting that Pisces is a sign of dreams. Pisces is a sign of illusions, and yeah, it's really nebulous and unknown and emotionally intense and deep and nuanced. And it is in those spaces that sometimes we just can't see clearly. Just like if you open your eyes under the water, you don't see with the clarity that you would see. Virgo is all about clear seeing, and Pisces is all about like the expanse. And they need one another. And this is where it's like we're allowing that sort of Piscean energy to pull us down. But I do feel like literal dreams are a very important space this week. I'm barely sleeping with my dreams being so busy. So really notice your literal dreams, because Pisces is a sign of dreams. And yeah, it is time to recognize what your dreams are trying to tell you, because actually they're probably trying to show you more clearly than maybe your waking life is at the moment. So just take note of that. And then our final card is a second wands card, and so it's the first wands card if it's an ace, and behind that we have the last wands card with a 10. But here I like this in the sense that it looks like a rough week of recognizing where we're holding ourselves back, where we're getting stuck in the mud, mainly down to our own resistance to moving forward, or struggles because we've overburdened ourselves, or we don't want to look at the real truth of a thing. And here the promise of a new beginning, because the ace of, well, any ace, but the ace of wands is an exceptionally creative spark of divine source light, really. And it's still in its I wanted to say dormancy, but I don't think it's in its dormancy. I think it's in its infancy. But because it is upside down, there is a resistance to actually stepping into our new beginning again. And there is maybe a little bit of a delay, but that's because of all the other things we've just discussed and where we're getting stuck in it. So the fear is stopping us from actually just getting stuck into whatever the new energy is bringing to us, and let it come. But equally saying that, we are in these retrograde phases, so for it to be upside down right now is kind of a little retrograde-y. It's just saying, right now you're reflecting. It's okay, because you're going to get really busy when you turn this around and you get into the right, that's it, I'm jumping in, this is the dream, even though I'm afraid, this is where I'm going with that. Then suddenly there's a lot to do, and the universe has the opportunity to present you with a lot of things, and you may step away from self-reflection. So sometimes all this like slow down energy, and I'm a very fiery, airy person, so I hate slow down energy, let me just say, but sometimes it's really, really necessary. And when we have these pregnant pause moments, which our week starts off more in the gibbous phase, which is that phase where the moon actually looks like a swollen pregnant belly. And that is the pregnant pause before the full moon on Thursday. And the full moon is where we really start to look at what is the fullness of the situation in all its horrors of what I'm walking away from. And it's all in all its potentials, which we cannot really yet see, but we can tell that they can be completely different from the things we need to accept that were, and stop telling ourselves they weren't, or being stuck in the fact that they were so bad they can never get better, or I'm totally overburdened, I'm totally over-traumatized, I'm living in PTSD. Those are the things we need to see that they're there and then let them go. But if we don't recognize them, if we don't pull them out and deal with them, and this is not always the case, but most often, if we don't deal with them, if we bury them or burden them or blindfold ourselves to them or ignore them or resist them, then they compound and we don't know they're there. And that is when we lean into something that distracts us, numbs us. We use our avoidance tactics, whatever that is. And Pisces is a sign that leads to that. I'm so overwhelmed with the pain, the trauma, the grief, that I can drown my sorrows in whatever way that works for you. So pay attention to your feelings this week. They are really trying to help you and show you this is where you're stuck. How do you get unstuck? Okay, I think that's enough for this weekly reading. It's rather a long one, I see, so I'm sending you all a lot of love and light on this challenging but promising week. They are all by design. These intensive phases are by design. So lean into the aromas of jasmine and lavender as you drop into your own body, your own breath, and trust that everything is working out in divine time. And if you're needing a little extra personal support or guidance, please check the links below and get in touch with me for either a personal card reading, astrology reading, healing session with crystals, whatever you are needing. I'm sending much love. Thanks for watching.